amount and didn't say what it was for.
Okay,
Now,
I know we voted on the tree, the holiday tree.
Right.
We already voted on that.
Right.
We already voted on the decals. Cindy moved, because Cindy brought that up months ago, and we finally got around to voting on it.
Right, but we don't know how to implement it because Cindy's no longer on outreach. And
you know what? I'm challenging all of that happened last month. I brought it up to Darren Martinez's office in Melbourne. Brad does not have the authority to move anybody once the appointments are made, his original appointments.
Okay.
Everything has to go through the board.
Okay.
He did not ask for that. In fact, he had 2 ad hoc committees. We're supposed to discuss those. Before you create a committee, first you have to discuss whether or not you need a committee.
Well, he probably thought that since he appointed the people, he can...
There's nothing in our bylaws that gives him that authority other than the fact that he does have the right to make appointments. But unless somebody has done something wrong, you can't remove them without cause. You guys all got elected by the public or got appointed on. He can't remove you from anything.
He can remove you from a committee because he appointed us.
No, he cannot. He does. You have to go by the bylaws. There is nothing in there that gives him that authority at all.
Right.
Unless the individual, like if you say, I'd like to be moved. Weren't you the one who wanted to move your seat?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I moved.
But that's fine because you asked.
I moved from member at large to...
You asked. And that was appropriate.
Director. Yeah.
And that was appropriate.
On the same token, doesn't a board member have to submit a resignation in writing, and does not that resignation have to be approved by the board?
I'm not sure that it says you have to do it in writing. It just says that if a person seeks to resign, he can. It doesn't say how that resignation has to come about.
Since we don't have the possibility of a quorum, we can talk as individuals here. We are recording just for the record because it is the time for the meeting to start, and board members might show up.
Until he calls.
So just so that you know, I want you guys to know this is on camera and it will go up. No, really, Mike, I told you I didn't put up the video of that meeting because of certain things that were said.
Right.
And because they're my videos, I can censor it and not put it up because I don't think some of the things that were said in the room that day were appropriate for the situation. But to go back to the young woman who, and I don't remember her name, but it was when I first started coming to the meetings in 2013, and she was the faith-based representative. Mm-hmm. And it was a very big to-do that her resignation had to be submitted in writing, and the board made a big to-do. I'm just saying what previously was done. Okay. I'm saying what previously was done as that she submitted in resignation, and everybody took a vote to let her resign. Now, recently also wait a second.
Excuse me. Well, this is what I'm saying. You cannot make somebody not resign. You just can't do that. If a person wants to resign, how can you have an argument about whether they resign or not?
But I'm saying this is how it was treated that time. Now, do you remember when things were kind of getting hairy for Anthony as secretary? And he wanted to resign his position as secretary.
We asked him not to, yes.
And you asked him not to?
I remember I was one of them who pleaded with him.
Eric, let him talk, okay?
Yeah. So you had a situation where somebody wanted to get out and was talked out of it. Now, ever since that day, in my opinion, Anthony has not fulfilled his duties and responsibility as secretary. He's not been to as many meetings. I mean, basically, he is not functioning as the secretary because evidently he really didn't want to do the job and he wasn't allowed to resign. So then we also have to take in consideration our bylaws are kind of vague. There are no standing rules on this issue. So always you have to go to Robert's Rules of Order. And Robert's Rules of Order does say that a resignation has to be approved by the legislative body or the board. It
does not
does.
say. You keep bringing up Robert's Rules of Order, and I'm going to tell you something.
Before you disagree
are lying
with me,
about that because
before
we
you
checked
disagree with
some
me,
of that stuff that you
before
said.
you call me a liar,
I'm going to tell
before
you.
you
Then show me what
disagree
page
with
it is.
me.
Show me where it's at. Because you know what? After you got up at the last
Okay,
meeting,
Eric, you guys go ahead and
myself
talk.
and a
I
couple
have
other
Robert's
people went
Rules
and
of
got
Order in
Robert's
my
Rules of
car, and
Order.
I'd like
we
to
couldn't
go
find
bring
any of that
We'll
stuff
be right
that you
back.
I'd
said.
like to go.
Go get it.
Go ahead,
Go get
go
it.
ahead, go
Go
ahead.
get it.
I also want to add to this conversation in that, you know, I don't know if you guys wanted to know this, but Jim Summers actually, I believe, had a conversation with Brad about coming back. And because his resignation was not in writing, I thought that he could. However, Brad said that when he talked with the city attorney or Dunn, I don't remember which, okay, that they said that if a person says they resigned and a couple of months go by, well, then they can kick them off the board. I'm not sure that's entirely true, though.
You got to remember one thing. Jim Summers this is the second time Jim Summers has resigned. He's quit.
Okay.
He used to be he was our first president.
Really?
He was our very first president. He quit because the same reason that he quit this last time. He wanted something to happen. A vote was taken. Everybody said, no, we didn't want to do it that way. And he got up and resigned. And then he came back later on, and not that he wanted to be president again, but he said that the board owed him money because he had put out money. I had bought the sound equipment for the board and everything, and we had
out of your own pocket.
No, it was board money. I went and picked it out and bought it and brought it back, and we were using it.
Okay.
And what happened is we had an electronic sound on it. Everybody knew it, and we used it to fight him against paying him any money. And it was over the holiday tree lights. He went out and it was too late. That's why we always vote on tree lights in July, because you need that much time to get everything in place so you can do it. This happened in late October, early November, and we said there was not enough time to get the lights and do this, that, and the other and everything. So we said, this is what we want to do, and this is how we'll do it. And everybody voted for that. He wanted to do it in advance. And so he convinced, I forget this lady's name. She used to come to all of our meetings. She stopped coming to meetings after that. But she went out and put out money. And the city agreed with the board, no. The whole board voted no. It was on record, voice votes, everything, the names of the people who were there and everything. And he got mad. And then he came back. Now he got voted down again. You were all there at the meeting when we voted down all of these things he wanted to do, and everybody said, "Nah, we don't want to do that." That's why he quit, because people weren't agreeing with him. Mm-hmm. Well, you got to remember one thing: in his office, he works for what's this real estate office?
Coldwell Bank.
Coldwell Bank. He runs that office. He has so much money that people are afraid of him in his office. So he thinks the rest of the people should act like that too, because what happens is we don't care. We don't work with him or for him. So your votes are independent. It's what you think. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't like that. He likes to control.
Now, Eric, given that...
Anytime you're ready, I already had it bookmarked.
Go ahead.
Okay.
This is page 290, 291 of Robert's Rules of Order, 11th edition, most recent version.
Okay.
If a member who has accepted an office, committee, or assignment or other duty finds that he is unable to perform it, he should submit his resignation. A resignation is submitted in writing, addressed to the secretary or appointing power. Alternatively, it may be submitted during a meeting, either orally or in writing. By submitting a resignation, the member, in effect, is requesting to be excused from a duty. The chair on reading or announcing the resignation, can assume a motion that the resignation be accepted. The duties of a position must not be abandoned until a resignation has been accepted and becomes effective, or at least there has been a reasonable opportunity for it to be accepted. The implication of acceptance is that the board is accepting the resignation. Now, yes, they can submit it orally, as it does say. But it also says it automatically becomes a motion that the board must approve. So even if a resignation is done orally during a public meeting, you have to call for the question of privilege, you have to have the motion, and the motion to accept the resignation has to be approved by the entire legislative body.
But remember, I remember everything that happened at that time because I asked Brad at that time to appoint a temporary chair.
Oh, we're not,
Why would you ask Brad to do so?
Because he was our chair and he walked out. He got up and said, I resign, I quit, and he walked out. And I said, Brad, could you appoint a temporary chair? Because Brad said he wanted to talk to him.
Yeah. So in other words, he wasn't ready to do so.
Exactly. But I said, appoint a temporary. In other words, if he talked him back, temporary chair duties are over.
But that's his option as to whether he wanted to appoint a temporary one or wanted to try and to talk this guy out of it, right?
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. A temporary chair does not mean that you're a permanent chair. That means if the guy comes back, he resumes everything.
But Eric, that means the prerogative is up to Brad as to how he would want to handle it.
And
correct?
he said he wanted to talk to him. I said fine. Right. And what happened is we didn't have another meeting for 3 months. Mm-hmm. But during that time, Jim Summers never came back. And remember, he did say it orally. And Jim Summers said orally, he resigned, he quit, and he walked out.
But needs to be approved.
It needs to be approved by the board.
Well, then fine, we can go
so
back.
So technically speaking, but you have 2 new board members you added based on his removal.
No, it weren't based on the removal.
No. Eric, you didn't hear that. You filled seats, but you filled a vacant seat that wasn't vacant. Jim's seat was not vacant because his resignation was not approved by the board.
I agree with you because I'm saying that everything that Brad did last month was illegal because he doesn't have the right to do that. He cannot replace...
Illegal is maybe not quite the right word to use.
He doesn't have according to procedure.
According to procedure,
not according to procedure is much better word.
Without board approval. The board first has to say, yes, like he removed me from my chairmanship of the bylaws committee, and he moved me from my seat on planning and land use, which was really kind of...
You got to have due process.
Yeah, you do. Now, and what really was kind of funny because who was there at that meeting who spoke before we got into this?
Who?
The planning people who gave that PowerPoint presentation.
I wasn't there.
You weren't there?
Yeah, I seen it.
They gave a PowerPoint presentation. We were getting ready to go before the commission. I was one of the authors of our... for 8 years, we've been working on this community plan. Mm-hmm. And he takes me up, and then who doesn't show up at the planning commission? Brad didn't show up, and Jerry, our chair of our planning and land use committee. Mm-hmm. Those are our biggest representatives, and they don't show up. Who shows up? I show up. Even he showed up.
William showed up.
Yeah, William showed up.
I go to everything.
Let me do something.
Eric,
this is kind of important.
Wait a minute.
If you don't have a quorum within 15 minutes of the start date,
you gotta adjourn.
Start time. But I need to call it to order in order to adjourn it. Yes.
I don't think you can if you didn't have a quorum.
How can you call something to order if you don't have an order?
Well, I know Brad always calls it to order and then does public stuff.
Well,
and then adjourns.
Yeah. Well, if you want to call it to order just to say we adjourn.
Technically, you can say...
Well, there's no harm in it, right?
You can call it to order, do your roll call, establish you don't have a quorum, and then therefore the meeting's adjourned.
All right, so at 7:20, the minutes are going to reflect that we're calling this...
Wait. You know, one thing you can do that Brad usually did, and I didn't have a problem with it, is talk about things that you would like to bring before the board.
We're going to do that anyway. We don't have.
In
to.
other words, anybody from the floor who wants to offer?
That's why I'm going to give it right back to you guys. I just want to do this legally. So I've called the meeting to order. Roll call. Renee.
And Mike. And we don't have a
All right,
quorum.
here. We don't have a quorum. I move for adjournment.
And
Don't move. You
Oh, the
just
young
it's,
lady.
there is no meeting.
Okay. Now you can say whatever you want.
The young lady.
And now I'm going to turn the camera off, and I'm going to thank. Oh look, you got your. Too late.
Oh, hey, well, there you go. You got your quorum.
It's too late. The meeting's
you
done.
You can re-adjourn.
Yes,
sir.
Oh, she's
Not on
not
the
on the
committee anymore.
You can, planning and land use, they take up all issues that have to do with property and streets and stuff like
Why
that.
should I go to planning and use people?
Because
you guys are watching for us.
no,
What are you
we
doing?
don't know your
What are you
problem.
doing?
We don't know your problem. You have to come to a committee and say, "This is a problem I'm having.
Eric.
Can you help me?"
I gave him Ross's phone number because it's also a safety issue.
Yeah.
So I
But
gave him
then
Ross's
public
phone number
safety.
because he also
I
has.
have left a message to Ross.
Yeah.
Ross gave me police department's phone number.
Well, then get back to
Can you give
Ross,
Ross?
and he
Said
will
6
go to the
months.
city.
he's been going to
It's in
Call the
6
cop.
months.
Since
Over
he-
2 years the guy is growing. It's been 6 months I'm chasing. I went all the way to the police department, to the narcotic, and nobody does nothing.
Let me tell you something. I'm a cancer patient. I'm a cancer doctor. I have a right to grow marijuana. I don't, but I have a right to if I want to.
I
I don't.
Do you need to get people
I
in
have-
and out of your house just for that?
That's
No,
sales.
no. That's
Oh,
that's
okay.
that's
Well,
a
that's what's
commercial
happening.
business.
That's what's
That's a
happening.
commercial
Yeah,
sales,
that's
and
what's
that you
happening.
do not have a right to do. According to the law, if you have a prescription, the way I do, you can grow up to 5 plants. Now, I don't know what this gentleman's situation is or anything like that, but if he's growing for commercial use, he can't do that. He can only grow for his personal use himself. But outside of that, you have to call the police.
I did.
If it's
Yeah.
past a certain quantity,
I don't
Yeah.
know. I
with,
can,
with
I'm-
regards to personal consumption, then it's in violation of 1104.8
Okay.
of the Civil Code.
All right, let me ask you a question. Another question. Let me
paralegal.
tell you something. The guy owns the property. The front house is rented.
Okay.
He does his activity in the garage. Every morning he comes at 8 o'clock and he leaves at maybe 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock.
Who does, the guy in the front or the
No,
owner?
the owner.
The owner.
The owner is doing it.
Okay.
Wow.
The owner is going into the garage.
They can seize that whole place if it's for
Yeah.
sales.
They can, the tenant is up front. They have 2 dogs. It's on purpose. That anybody gets there, the dog starts getting wild.
Doesn't make any difference to
Doesn't
the
make a
police.
difference.
You got that address again?
17320.
What?
I'll cut it.
I thought that was on.
Yeah, you said you were taking it off. This is a
No,
private-
I told you I turned it back on when you were going to
This-
start
this-
disseminating
this-
false
this-
information.
This is
I
a
didn't
private
hear that.
conversation.
No, they're taking public comment
I'm
from
not
this
taking
man
public
at the meeting,
I'm
are you
having a
not?
personal conversation with this gentleman to
Is
find
this
out if he's
personal
got
or
a
is this
problem.
public?
This is
Vic,
personal.
is
We're
this
not at a
personal
meeting.
or public?
This is not a
Well,
meeting.
the meeting is adjourned.
Adjourned.
Yeah, but you adjourned the meeting, you asked him to continue a public comment conversation. so
No, we didn't. I
Vic,
asked him
Vic,
to want to know
Vic,
what his
Vic,
Well, I mean,
are you making a public comment to your neighborhood council,
This is
or are
personal.
you speaking to them personally and in private?
well, at this point, whether it's a public or personal, needs to be resolved.
Right.
So whoever does the resolution, I will thank him.
All I'm saying,
But
all I
Vic,
can tell you
what
right
I'm
now,
asking you because it makes a difference whether I put this
cannot
this
record you
video
without
up
your
on
permission.
YouTube or not.
No, I understand.
It's
now.
private.
this
So
is
I'm
private
asking, is your
conversation.
comment a public comment of official record to your outreach committee of your neighborhood council?
Let's not do it public at this point.
Okay, good. I'll turn it off. Thank you very
So
much.
what's that
That's
address?
clear.